Third evidence: control integration and reproduction of the human body. It's very important to know how our reproductive system works because throughout the day, there are different processes that involve the development of certain sexual characteristics that we acquire over time from hormonal processes. For example, changes in our physical appearance, fertility of our body, and how compatible it is with various contraceptive methods. Male reproductive system, organs and their function. Testes. The two testes, also known as testicles, are the male gonads responsible for the production of sperm and testosterone. The testes are ellipsoid glandular organs around 1.5 to 2 inches long and an inch in diameter. Each testis is found inside its own pouch on one inside of the scrotum and is connected to the abdomen by a spermatic cord and cremaster muscle. Epididymis. The epididymis is a sperm storage area that wraps around the superior and posterior edge of the testis. The epididymis is made up of several feet of long, thin tubules that are tightly coiled into small mass. Sperm produced in the testes moves into the epididymis to mature before being passed on through the male reproductive organs. Vas deferens. The function of vas deferens, also called dectus deferens, is to transport sperm from the epididymis to the ejaculatory ductus for the production of ejaculation. They are the transport system involved in the movement of sperm. Seminal vesicles. The seminal vesicles are a pair of lumpy exocrine glands that store and produce some of the liquid portion of semen. These seminal vesicles are about 2 inches in length and located posterior to the urinary bladder and anterior to the rectum. The liquid produced by the seminal vesicles contains proteins and mucus and has an alkaline pH to help sperm survive in the acidic environment of the vagina. Prostate gland. The prostate is a walnut-sized exocrine gland that borders the inferior end of the urinary bladder and surrounds the urethra. The prostate produces a large portion of the fluid that makes up semen. This fluid is milky white in color and contains enzymes, proteins, and other chemicals to support and protect sperm during ejaculation. The prostate also contains smooth muscle tissue that can constrict to prevent the flow of urine or semen. Urethra. Semen passes from the ejaculatory duct to the exterior of the body via the urethra, an 8 to 10-inch long muscular tube. The urethra passes through the prostate and ends at the external urethral orifice located at the tip of the penis. Urine exiting the body from the urinary bladder also passes through the urethra. Bulbourethral glands. These glands are a pair of pea-sized exocrine glands located inferior to the prostate and interior to the anus. The bulbourethral glands secrete a thin alkaline fluid into the urethra that lubricates the urethra and neutralizes acid from urine remaining in the urethra after urination. Penis. The penis is the male external sexual organ located superior to the scrotum and inferior to the umbilicus. The penis is roughly cylindrical in shape and contains the urethra and the external opening of the urethra. Large pockets of erectile tissue in the penis allow it to fill with blood and become erect. The erection of the penis causes it to increase in size and become turgid. The function of the penis is to deliver semen into the vagina during sexual intercourse. Scrotum. The scrotum is a sac-like organ made of skin and muscles that houses the testes. It's located inferior to the penis in the pubic region. The scrotum is made up of 2 side-by-side pouches with a testis located in each pouch. The smooth muscles that make up the scrotum allow it to regulate the distance between the testes and the rest of the body. When the testes become too warm to support spermatogenesis, the scrotum relaxes to move the testes away from the body's head. Conversely, the scrotum contracts to move the testes closer to the body's core head when the temperatures drop below the ideal range for spermatogenesis. path that sperms follow from testes through urethra. The testes are where sperm is manufactured. The epididymis is a long coil structure topping the testes, and it receives immature sperms from the testes and stores them as they mature. When ejaculation occurs, sperms are forcefully expelled from the tail of the epididymis into the vas deferens. Sperm then travel through the vas deferens through up the spermatic cord into the pelvic cavity, over the ureter to the prostate behind the bladder. Here, the vas deferens joins with the seminal vesicle to form the ejaculatory duct, which passes through the prostate and empties into the urethra. When ejaculation occurs, rhythmic muscle movements propel the sperm forward. The external genitalia in male includes penis, urethra, and scrotum. Some organs that contribute to production of seminal fluid, as I had said before, are testes, epididymis, vas deferens, ureter, prostate, bladder, seminal vesicle, and urethra. Some hormones produced during this process are the GnRH, gonadotropin-releasing hormone, which is produced and secreted by specialized nerve cells in the hypothalamus of the brain. It is released into tiny blood vessels that carry this hormone from the vein to the pituitary gland, where it stimulates the production of two more hormones, the follicle-stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone. These hormones are released into the general circulation and act on the testes to initiate and maintain the reproductive functions. Follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone control the levels of hormones produced by the testes, such as testosterone, estradiol, and progesterone, and are important in controlling the production of sperm. More deeply, the FSH, or follicle-stimulating hormone, is one of the hormones essential to pubertal development and the function of men's testes. In males, this hormone enters the testes, stimulating the Sertoli cells, which help to nourish the sperm cells that the testes produce to begin facilitating the spermatogenesis. The LH, or luteinizing hormone, is a gonadotrophic hormone produced and released by cells in the anterior pituitary gland. In men, luteinizing hormone stimulates Leydig cells in testes to produce testosterone, which acts locally to support sperm production. Testosterone also exerts effects all around the body to generate male characteristics such as increased muscle mass, enlargement of the larynx to generate a deep voice, and the growth of facial and body hair. Estrogen. There are two types of estrogen in men, estrone and estradiol. Estradiol is produced primarily in testes by aromatization of testosterone. Small amounts are produced in the adrenal glands and some peripheral tissues, most notably fat. By contrast, most of the circulating estrone is derived from peripheral aromatization of androstenedione. Estradiol and estrone can be converted into each other, and both can be inactivated via hydroxylation and conjugation. Progesterone. Males produce progesterone in the adrenal glands and testes. Men need optimal levels of progesterone to produce adequate testosterone, which is necessary for sex drive, sperm production, muscle mass strength, fat distribution, bone density, and red blood cell production in men. Other progesterone effects in men include those on the central nervous system, including blocking of gonadotropin secretion, sleep improvement, and effects on tumors in the central nervous system, as well as effects on the immune system, cardiovascular system, kidney function, adipose tissue, behavior, and respiratory system. Female reproductive system. Organs and their function. Ovaries. The ovaries are a pair of small glands about the size and shape of almonds, located on the left and right sides of the pelvic body cavity lateral to the superior portion of the uterus. Ovaries produce female sex hormones such as estrogen and progesterone, as well as ova, commonly called eggs, the female gametes. Oviduct, also called fallopian tube, are narrow ducts located in the human female abdominal cavity that transport male sperm cells to the egg, provide a suitable environment for fertilization, and transport the egg from the ovary where it is produced to the central channel, also known as lumen of the uterus. Uterus. The uterus is a hollow muscular pear-shaped organ located posterior and superior to the urinary bladder, connected to the two fallopian tubes on its superior end and to vagina by the cervix on its inferior end. The uterus is also known as the womb as it surrounds and supports the developing features during pregnancy. The inner lining of the uterus, known as endometrium, provides support to the embryo during early development. The visceral muscles of the uterus contract during childbirth to push the fetus through the birth canal. Vagina. The vagina is an elastic muscular tube that connects the cervix of the uterus to the exterior of the body. It's located inferior to the uterus and posterior to the urinary bladder. The vagina functions as the receptacle for the penis during sexual intercourse and carries sperm to the uterus and fallopian tubes. It also serves as the birth canal by stretching to allow delivery of the fetus during childbirth. During menstruation, the menstrual flow exits the body via the vagina. Production and transportation of the oocyte. The first step in egg transportation is the capture of the ovulated egg by the uterine tube. Shortly before ovulation, the epithelial cells of the uterine tube become more highly ciliated, and smooth muscle activity in the tube and its suspensory ligament increases as a result of hormonal influences. By ovulation, the fimbriae of the uterine tube move closer to the ovary and seem to sweep rhythmically over its surface. This action, in addition to the current set up by the cilia, efficiently captures the ovulated egg complex. When inside the uterine tube, the egg is transported toward the uterus, mainly as a result of contractions of the smooth musculature of the tubal wall. Although the cilia lining the tubal mucosa may also play a role in egg transportation, the reaction is not obligatory because women with immotile cilia syndrome are often fertile. Tubal transportation of the egg usually takes 3 to 4 days whether or not fertilization occurs. Egg transport typically occurs in two phases: slow transport in the ampulla, which lasts approximately 72 hours, and a more rapid phase of 8 hours during which the egg or embryo passes through the isthmus into the uterus. By a poorly understood mechanism, possibly local edema or reduced muscle activity, the egg is temporarily prevented from entering the isthmic portion of the tube, but under the influence of progesterone, the uterotubal junction relaxes and permits entry of the ovum. Fertilization and implantation. During fertilization, the sperm and egg unite in one of the fallopian tubes to form a zygote. Then the zygote travels down the fallopian tube, where it becomes a morula. Once it reaches the uterus, the morula becomes a blastocyst. The blastocyst then burrows into the uterine wall, a process called implantation. External genitalia. Mons pubis is a rounded mound of fatty tissue that covers the pubic bone during puberty. It becomes covered with hair. The mons pubis contains all secreting or sebaceous glands that release substances called pheromones that are involved in sexual attraction pheromones. Glans clitoris. Located between the labia minora at the upper end is a small protrusion that corresponds to the penis in the male. The clitoris, like the penis, is very sensitive to sexual stimulation and can become erect. Stimulating the clitoris can result in an orgasm. Labia majora are relatively large, fleshy folds of tissue that enclose and protect the other external genital organs. They are comparable to the scrotum in males. The labia majora contains sweat and sebaceous glands, which produce lubricating secretions. During puberty, hair appears on the labia majora. Labia minora can be very small or up to 2 inches wide. The labia minora lie just inside the labia majora and surround the openings to the vagina and urethra. A rich supply of blood vessels gives the labia minora a pink color. During sexual stimulation, these blood vessels become engorged with blood, causing the labia minora to swell and become more sensitive to stimulation. Opening of urethra is a tiny hole that you pee out of, located just below your clitoris. Opening of vagina. It's also called the birth canal and it's right below your urethral opening. It's where menstrual blood leaves your body and babies are born. Hormones produced during this process. GnRH, gonadotrophin releasing hormone, is produced and secreted by specialized nerve cells in the hypothalamus of your brain. It's released into tiny blood vessels that carry this hormone from the vein to the pituitary gland, where it stimulates the production of two more hormones, the follicle-stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone. These hormones are released into the general circulation and act on the ovaries to initiate and maintain their reproductive functions. Follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone control the levels of hormones produced by the ovaries, such as progesterone, and are important in controlling the maturation and release of an egg during each menstrual cycle. More deeply, the FSH, or follicle-stimulating hormone, is one of the hormones essential to pubertal development and the function of women's ovaries. In women, this hormone stimulates the growth of ovarian follicles in the ovary before the release of an egg from one follicle at ovulation. LH, or luteinizing hormone, is the gonadotrophic hormone produced and released by cells in the anterior pituitary gland. In women, luteinizing hormone carries out different roles in the two halves of the menstrual cycle. In weeks 1 to 2 of the cycle, luteinizing hormone is required to stimulate the ovarian follicles in the ovary to produce the female sex hormone, or estradiol. Around day 14 of the cycle, a surge in luteinizing hormone levels causes the ovarian follicle to tear and release a mature oocyte from the ovary, a process called ovulation. For the remainder of the cycle, the remains of the ovarian follicle form a corpus luteum. Luteinizing hormone stimulates the corpus luteum to produce progesterone, which is required to support the early stages of pregnancy if fertilization occurs. Estrogen. Estrogen sends messages to the uterus to grow and replace the lining that is shed during the previous menses. The three major naturally occurring estrogens in women are estradiol, and estrol. Estradiol is the prominent estrogen during reproductive years, both in terms of absolute serum levels as well as in terms of estrogenic activity. During menopause, estrone is the predominant circulating estrogen, and during pregnancy, estrol is the predominant circulating estrogen in terms of serum levels. Though estrol is the most plentiful of the three estrogens, it is also the weakest, whereas estradiol is the strongest with a potency of approximately 80 times that of estradiol. Progesterone. Progesterone is a hormone produced primarily in the ovaries, but also in smaller quantities by the adrenal glands and in the placenta of pregnant women. The hormone helps regulate menstruation, prepares the body for pregnancy, and aids in nourishing the uterine environment to support implantation of a fertilized egg, as well as growth of the placenta. Progesterone levels may be monitored through simple blood serum testing if it's necessary. Ovarian cycle. As a rule, the ovarian cycle lasts 28 days and it's subdivided into two phases. The follicle phase, which is the recruitment of a so-called follicle cord, and within this, the selection of the mature follicle. This phase ends with ovulation. Estradiol is the steering hormone. Normally, it lasts 14 days, but this can vary considerably. Luteal phase is the progesterone production by the yellow body or corpus luteum and lasts 14 days and it's relatively constant. Uterine cycle, also called menstrual cycle, is complex and is controlled by many different glands and the hormones that these glands produce. A brain structure called the hypothalamus causes the nervy pituitary gland to produce certain chemicals which prompt the ovaries to produce the sex hormones estrogen and progesterone. The four main phases of the menstrual cycle are menstruation, which is the elimination of the thickened lining of the uterus from the body through the vagina. The average length of a period is between 3 days and 1 week. The second phase is the follicular phase, and it starts on the first day of menstruation and ends with ovulation. Prompted by the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland releases follicle-stimulated hormone. This hormone stimulates the ovary to produce around 5 to 20 follicles, which bed on the surface. Each follicle houses an immature egg. Usually, only one follicle will mature into an egg, while the other side. This can occur around 10 of a 28-day cycle. The third stage or phase is ovulation, and is the release of a mature egg from the surface of the ovary. This usually occurs mid-cycle, around 2 weeks or so before menstruation starts. And the last stage is the luteal phase. During ovulation, the egg bursts from its follicle, but the ruptured follicle stays on the surface of the ovary. For the next 2 weeks or so, the follicle transforms into a structure known as the corpus luteum. This structure starts releasing progesterone along with small amounts of estrogen. This combination of hormones maintains the thickened lining of the uterus, waiting for a fertilized egg to stick. Of a fertilized egg implants in the lining of the uterus, it produces these hormones that are necessary to maintain the corpus luteum. If pregnancy does not occur, the corpus luteum withers and dies, usually around day 22 in a 28-day cycle. How ovarian and uterine cycles are related. Both cycles occur currently and are tightly regulated by hormones released from the endocrine system. The changes in the ovary are regulated by hormones released from the anterior pituitary gland, and the changes observed in the uterine cycle are regulated by hormones released from the ovary during the ovarian cycle. Birth control methods. Intrauterine device. It's a small T-shaped device that is placed in the uterus by a healthcare provider. It sits inside the uterus and the cervix keeps it in place. Once it is in, you cannot feel it. To use it, your healthcare provider will place an uterine device through your vagina and cervix and into your uterus. The intrauterine device has strings that can be felt in the back of the vagina, but they do not stick out of the vagina, like a tampon string. Your healthcare provider will cut the strings to an appropriate length once the device is placed. Some advantages are that it's safe and effective in preventive pregnancy. Actually, it is 99% effective. Even more effective than other methods of reversible birth control. It works for 3 to 10 years depending on the type, and it can be removed at any time by a healthcare provider. Disadvantages of this method are that the device requires a clinic visit for placement. It does not protect against sexually transmitted diseases, and shortly after placement, women may experience side effects like cramping and irregular bleeding. Male condom is a thin film cover that is placed over the penis. Condoms prevent pregnancy by keeping sperm from entering a woman's body. Actually, when used correctly, they are 98% effective. Condoms can be damaged by heat, so store them somewhere cool and dry. Do not store them in a wallet or in a car. Condoms have a limited shelf life and they will expire. Check the expiration date on the packaging to make sure the condom is still good. Some advantages of using a male condom are that it does not require a prescription. Anyone may buy them. They are safe and easy to use. And latex and polyurethane condoms offer protection against STDs, including HIV, as well as preventing pregnancy. Female condom is a thin, soft, loose-fitting pouch with a flexible, soft ring on each end. One end of the female condom fits inside of the vagina to keep it in place, and the other end stays outside of the vagina. It is made from a synthetic non-latex rubber called nitrile, and it's pre-lubricated with a silicone lubricant. To use it, insert the female condom up to 8 hours before you have sex. Advantages of this method are that it's safe and effective to use. It provides protection against STDs during vaginal sex, and it does not require immediate withdrawal of the penis after ejaculation. Some disadvantages of this method are that some people experience irritation and allergic reaction with female condoms, even though they do not contain latex, and they can be more expensive than male condoms. A good fact of using a female condom is that they are approximately 79% effective. Not as male condoms, but more effective than other methods. Withdrawal method. It prevents fertilization by not allowing semen and sperm to enter the vagina, so that sperm does not reach the egg. It's also called coitus interruptus, and it works about 78% of the time. To use it while having intercourse before ejaculating, a person pulls the penis out of the partner's vagina and away from the partner's genitals. The person withdrawing must depend on their judgment of their physical sensations to decide when they are about to ejaculate in order to withdrawal in time. Some advantages are that it has no health risks or side effects, it is free, and it's an acceptable method for some couples with religious preferences related to the use of birth control. Some disadvantages are that withdrawal does not protect against sexually transmitted diseases, including HIV. A person may not be able to consistently withdraw their penis before they ejaculate. An interruption of the sexual excitement phase may decrease pleasure. Abstinence. It's defined as refraining from all forms of sexual activity and genital contact such as vaginal, oral, or anal sex. It's 100% effective if used consistently. Some advantages are that it has no health risk, it's free, and you can choose to be abstinent whenever you want, no matter your age, gender, sexual orientation, or previous sexual experience. Some disadvantages are that it's sometimes hard to abstain from sex, particularly in the moment, and there may be pressure from your partner or friends to have sex. Vasectomy. It's a process in which part of each vas deferens is removed. Even though sperm production continues in the testes, sperm can no longer reach the exterior. This method is almost 100% effective. The main disadvantage of vasectomy is that it doesn't protect against sexually transmitted infections. Reversal may be possible in some circumstances, but it's not always an option. Reversal is more complicated than the initial procedure. Some risks of this method are swelling, bruising, bleeding inside the scrotum, blood in the semen, and infection. Tubal ligation is a process in which both oviducts are tied off and then cut, resulting in the secondary oocyte being unable to pass through the oviducts and sperm can reach the oocyte. It's more than 99% effective, but it does not protect from STIs. Tubal ligation is an operation that involves making incisions in your abdomen. It requires anesthesia, and risks associated with tubal ligation include damage to the bowel, bladder, or major blood vessels, reaction to anesthesia, improper wound healing or infection, continued pelvic or abdominal pain, and failure of the procedure, resulting in a future unwanted pregnancy. Contraceptive implants. They release the hormone progestin to stop you from getting pregnant. The hormones in the birth control implant prevent pregnancy in two ways. Progestin thickens the mucus on your cervix, which stops sperm from swimming through your egg. It's more than 99% effective. But the contraceptive implant does have several disadvantages, including non-protection against sexually transmitted infections, high upfront cost if not covered by insurance, insertion requires a doctor's visit, and the device must be removed after 3 years. Natural family planning. It works by determining the female's fertile days, which are the days during menstrual cycle women are most likely to get pregnant, and abstaining from sex on those days. Some disadvantages of natural family planning include natural family planning does not protect against sexually transmitted infection such as chlamydia or HIV. Also, you'll need to abstain from sex during the fertile time of your menstrual cycle, which some couples can find difficult. It is not as effective as other forms of birth control, such as the contraceptive implant. Morning after pill. It contains high levels of estrogens and progestin, which give negative feedback inhibition of FSH and LH secretion, causing the ovaries to cease secretion of their estrogen and progesterone. If take 2 pills within 72 hours after intercourse and another 2 pills later, pregnancy reduces 75%. Emergency contraception is an effective option for preventing pregnancy after unprotected sex, but it isn't as effective as other methods of contraception and isn't recommended for routine use. Also, the morning after pill can fail even with correct use, and it offers no protection against sexually transmitted infections. The morning after pill isn't appropriate for everyone. Don't take a morning after pill if you're allergic to any component of the morning after pill, or if you're taking certain medications that can decrease the effectiveness of a morning after pill, such as barbiturates or St. John's wort. Now, thanks to the aforementioned, it's possible to have a healthy sex life. Thanks for your attention. Video made by Tania Peña Segura.